Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of Creative Collaboration Conversations with Veronica and Jillian. In today's episode, we're going to chat about our working environments and how we do our best work, what it is that we need, et cetera, et cetera. But before we dig into that, let's do our typical kind of check-ins. So hello, Veronica, how are you? And
Hello,
what's
Jillian.
happening in your world? What's going on with you and Bruno?
Well, I feel nothing changed and everything changed. It's a new year, new energy. And can you believe it's February? Because
I know,
I can't.
I know.
Uh, and I think this today's episode is so relevant because as we were chatting before we press the record button, I do feel a need
Hmm.
of change when it comes to my work environment. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
I love working from home, but I kind of need a change. And I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the weather or what it is, but definitely I need a
Hmm.
change. How about you?
Oh, goodness. So working environment. So yeah, for me, I have been location independent, as they say, for geez, 20 years.
Mm,
So
that's
I
a long
feel like
time.
I know. So I don't know if you're familiar with that movie, like Benjamin Button, where he does
Yeah.
like the reverse aging thing.
Yes,
I
that's a good
feel like
movie.
that's kind of like my life and definitely my career because I feel like I'm now at the point wondering like the idea of going into an office every day is like feels like suffocating to me. Like I can't comprehend that. Um, but the idea of sometimes semi regularly or whatever, maybe I don't know, 2 days a week would probably be my max. The idea of going into an office to work to work with people collaboratively has become um, more appealing to me lately, which is surprising because I've been kind of anti that for so long, just simply because I valued so heavily my independence and the flexibility. Um, but yeah, because I think yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm used to working alone. But anyways, we can chat more about that and
Mm.
how yeah. So it's like working in an office or working in a home office or the another option is the co-working space.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced that or what have you done? Because I think you also
All of
worked in
them, I think.
offices and yeah. So where yeah, tell me about your experience.
So I think I did everything that you just described, working from an office, like the 9 to 5 mentality that you kind of embrace because that's the only thing you know. And then you go and
Yeah.
work for corporate, and then 9 to 5 doesn't really exist. And you end up
Mm-hmm.
working sometimes at 12 o'clock. You're like, oh, I should go home. Working for myself or a small company in a small office, having my own office in a co-working space, working from my home office, working from home while working for a company. I think I kind of play with everything, working from a cafe from time to time or meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't think there's the right answer. I think it's the right answer for the right moment
Yes.
because we
Yes.
do change a lot and we do need something else in different moments. I said at this
Mm-hmm.
point, actually, I used to love working from home, and with the pandemic was like, oh, yes, actually, this is way better. And
Sure.
I'm not the type of person that will stay in one place. And even if I have my working station here, you're gonna see me working, or you're gonna find me working from my couch or sitting at my coffee table, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
going
Mm-hmm.
in the bedroom because I just need a change of environment, or getting my laptop and going to a cafe that I haven't done in some time, and I think I need that.
Mm. Mm.
Or moving to my dining table just because.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it depends on what you need to do as well. Because I do
Mm-hmm.
prefer having Zoom calls, if I have to have Zoom calls, to have them from home, because you do need privacy or the ability to concentrate and have a degree of
Mm-hmm.
privacy. And a cafe doesn't offer you that, or sometimes a co-working space doesn't offer you that. However, a
Mhm.
working space will offer you that.
Mhm.
But sometimes, fun enough, before before the new year, before Christmas, actually, I went to a conference and we spoke about this in an episode. And I had to carve a couple of hours to work. Those were two very, very productive hours in a very insanely busy environment. So sometimes you just
Mhm.
need that thing. So
Mhm.
at this point, I'm at that, like we were discussing, I think I need to get out of my home office environment
Mm.
because I feel a dip in my creativity. But I
Hmm.
do need to create. So that means probably I will need a couple of hours at a cafe, couple of
Mhm.
meetings outside of my office, and then I'll be craving the solitude of my office.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Oh.
interesting. I learned because I've been working, remotely or location independent, as I mentioned, for so long. I think, obviously by the time COVID came around, it didn't make a single difference for me. But it was really wild to see a lot of clients trying to adjust, and a lot of people who are accustomed to the office environment. But and also through that, it it helped to kind of magnify a couple of things that I had been able to garner a lot of experience with. And it also showed me um, things that I had, yeah, just learned to do that I didn't really think about until I did. But things that are helpful. Anyway, and so one of those things is, again, going back to the flexibility that I have valued so much, otherwise known as control. Yes, may as well just say it like it is. Control. I guess I've valued that more so than anything, really. Being able to control where I work, when I work, one of like all the things, right? But in doing that, it also kind of required me or encouraged me or kind of led me down the path of also kind of controlling my schedule and being very, over the years, getting better and better at kind of optimizing my schedule. So for like, certain things, for example, like I knew, got to a point where meeting with people in person, because even though I've worked, remotely for so long, 10 years ago, doing Zoom meetings all the time wasn't as common, right?
No, not at all. Not
So
even four
yeah,
years ago.
I mean, I was, but 10 years ago, I was not. So even at that time, I would do a lot of meetings in person, right? And so I started to realize it's not efficient for me to like, get my suit on and all of these things and go schlep somewhere for one meeting. So I
Yeah.
began doing like clusters. So I would
Mhm.
target certain cities or wherever I was, and then I would pull all the meetings in. So then I ended up kind of learning to become more efficient. So I call them suit days. So on suit days,
I like
I
that.
was out. Yeah, I was out and I would have 8 to 10 to 12 meetings that day, just right in succession. And therefore, it was, kind of optimizing that day. It was like optimizing that suit. It was like, yeah, so wearing
Let
that,
me take
maximizing it.
all the best out of this to get advantage of
Yeah,
my outfit.
absolutely. And yeah, it was great. And then there were all these like kind of ancillary benefits as well, like these like compounding benefits. So one thing, of course, is if one person canceled, it was like, ah, great. Now I have time to like have a coffee or do some work or stretch my legs. So that's one thing, as opposed to going all the way
Mhm.
somewhere and then finding out whatever. And the other benefit is because I was meeting so many people in succession, and I would deliberately overlap them a little bit. The person I was meeting with would see that, when they finished, that there was somebody else waiting.
Yes.
So then they realized it's not
How
really all about
busy
them. There
you
are other
are.
people too. And then also I could
Smart.
add value by introducing those two people. And so that next person would come in and they had already met the person before them. And then they would also meet the person after them.
Yeah.
And so I did that. So it's like, is as kind of optimized as possible. And then kind of funny anecdote. I had my certain hubs that I would do, like certain locations in certain cities and areas. And one of them in particular, I came in one day and they were like, "Oh, Jillian, are you here for your confession day?" And I'm like, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, we all know when you come in that you have your seat and that over there, and we all laugh about what is Jillian doing, and we've decided people are doing confession with you." So that became the
You're the
joke,
priest.
and so yeah, that's how it happened. So everybody would come in. So anyway, so that's one thing I did, but that was an example of not only kind of, maximizing the suit and also the resources to get to location
Mhm.
X, but also from an energetic standpoint, right? Because I
Yeah.
also learned, and that to me feeds into the bit about creativity. Because parallel to that, I also realized what works best for me in terms of how to get my creativity flowing is listening to music via AirPods, and having a giant whiteboard and just going at it. And so that's my creativity time. That's like my best time to be creative. And so I would schedule those times, like schedule those. We've talked about this on other
Yeah.
episodes, but I would schedule those times of like my thinking blocks. And so at first it was tricky to be like, okay, now it's time to go be creative. But because of the kind of the consistency of it, like the ritual of it, I was able to do that. And for me, as soon as I see a big whiteboard and I put my music in, it takes me away. And then I already have prepared ahead of time the things I'm going to be thinking about or whatever. So
Your
I would
brain is
schedule those
already it's
times.
already trained
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. So I have learned. So I use my calendar and my schedule as a way to facilitate um, as much as possible. Yeah, when I'm efficient, when I'm not, when I'm all the things, right? So when I can be creative, when am I doing meetings, when am I accessible, like all of the things to try to optimize. So for me, that my working environment is more about my calendar than it is about my physical location.
I I must say I envy you a little bit when it comes to that because I'm not working. I tried it, but my brain is not working like that. So I do depends how I feel because if I feel tired, I will not be able to be creative. I can do a lot of things, even tired, and be efficient, but the creativity will not gonna come. So
Mm,
let's say
mm.
I had a bad night or I just worked late or my dog was sick or like shit happens. uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I woke up and I have like 3 hours scheduled for creativity. But if my brain is tired, I will just not be able to produce anything.
So can I ask you a quick question about that? Because I can identify with that. And now this is going to be me flexing my nerd status. Um, yes, but this is a serious
We
question before I
always
do the
have something
flexing.
like that in our
Yes,
podcast,
I
don't
know.
we?
I know. I know. No, this is a serious question though. So is there something that you currently are aware of, that something that that helps to kind of turn on that lever for you, like inspire you, motivate you, like wake you up, like get you going, like get you kind of jazzed? Is there something? Is it a song? Is it like a yoga pose? Is it if I run up and down the stairs, if I go look at some photos or like
Actually
meditate, or
going,
is there
yeah,
something
yeah.
that that really helps you to kind of like ignite the energy?
Get out of my normal environment. So go
So
for a
could that
walk or
mean
go
like,
and work at a cafe
okay,
or something like
so
that.
that could be, it could be like walk down the stairs and like, or, walk around the
Actually
block or
change the
something like
environment
that?
will be much more do a walk, but probably that will solve it to a specific point. And I think I'm associated if I'm tired and I will be in my house environment, even if I have my work set up, that I know this
Mm-hmm,
is work and my I actually it's a shift in my mind when I get to my workstation.
mm-hmm,
I don't
mm-hmm,
see like I see now you see the couch, but usually I don't see it. I see the environment that is set up for work and my mind switches.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, so if I'm tired, I will be, but yeah, I will just lay down for 10 minutes because I'm tired, like it's hard to switch. So for me it will be
mm-hmm,
if I'm that tired, I just need to be in a different environment where I get the energy to just forget
mm-hmm,
about the fatigue or forget that now you haven't slept enough.
mm-hmm,
And just grab a coffee and power to it. But actually, I wanted to say something. related to what you said, I do relate. When I was working for the media company, I used to travel quite a lot, and I do enjoy going and having clusters of meetings. It's super efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And be in a hotel, like a restaurant that usually they have shitty coffee. That's the second part. And just have people coming to you instead of traveling, especially when you're not
Mm-hmm.
in your normal environment. So finding parking spots are, basic things. It's a hassle. And that it tends to be very, very, very efficient. However, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing, actually, even now I could do it, but getting tired, like the energy level, the older I get, the lower it goes. So I maybe could do that for one day, but I don't think I could do it how I used to do it for 2 days in a row, full of
Mm-hmm.
meetings, or
Mm-hmm.
not to have breaks. Did you experience
Mm-hmm.
that, a shift or a switch when
Oh,
the older
sure.
the older we get?
Sure.
I don't want to, the wiser
Sure.
we get.
Yeah, I feel like more discerning. The more discerning I get, which is a whole nother kind of revelation that I have been discovering in how much that influences the way I show up and the way I work now and my decision making and all of that. So yeah, so that whole piece. But it's relevant for this conversation in terms of, yeah, work environment and scheduling. For sure. It's like how long I schedule things for. Um,
And where
yeah,
to,
I've also,
like, what's the
wait,
type of
yep,
environment you need?
mm-hmm,
And I
the
think this
type
is
of
some,
environment.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and also like if I am going to have a meeting in person or something like that, I look at the day in the week. So I do my weekly planning every Monday, and like make sure I'm set and know what's going on, etc. But even when, yeah, so even when I'm scheduling meetings with people, I am very kind of aware. I don't look at just when there's a hole in my schedule. I also look at the composition of that day or that week and what else
Mhm.
is going on. And what other things can I cluster around it still? Is there some
Yes.
other like errand I have or somebody else I could meet or drop in or something? And then I think about the priority things I need to get done for that day or that week and think about, energetically. So sometimes for me, I'd rather do the meetings first in the day so I get it over with, and then I can come back and focus. But other times, I in my like normal like default, my best work, my highest creativity is in the morning.
I have
So
this.
I also like to just wake up and get at it, and so therefore prefer to do my meetings later in the day, when I'm like half delirious. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's important to
um,
discuss about this because when you are younger or at the beginning of your career, the enthusiasm and the desire to learn overcomes, or it comes, it's much more important than your energy or your time or be efficient. You just want to go for it. You just
mm,
want to do it. But I think you need to take all of this into account,
mm-hmm,
uh, if you really want to get the best out of you. And it doesn't really
mm-hmm,
matter. I would have loved to know these things when I was younger and how to structure
yeah,
my meetings and everything, and to figure it out when I'm the most efficient and most creative. So to know how to split my day. For example, now I know, I will all my meetings will not be planned before 10 o'clock, because I
mm-hmm,
the time for me either to, I think we actually had an episode about this as well.
mm-hmm,
So there are small things that you can change in your schedule that will help you be more productive or more efficient or actually feel better. And then you can do all of these things and they will come, naturally. Um, and I think it's actually a mindset,
mm-hmm,
because now we are more set, like, what do we actually
mm-hmm,
want? What's
mm-hmm.
important for me? How do I want to show up? And how do I want to feel at the end of the day? Something that no one is
Mhm.
actually talking. Because let's
Yeah.
be honest, after a day of 10 meetings, you are dead.
Oh, sure, sure,
You can't do
sure.
anything.
I was dead, but I also was like still energized because I loved being in the flow with those people. And
Yes.
I also felt like this massive compounding effect that happened. So I was able to sustain that for a while. Like I was doing like 100 coffees and lunches per month for a considerable stretch of time. So it was like this massive burst of productivity in terms of, yeah, all the benefits of connecting with people face to face and all the things that I have mentioned. But definitely that in and of itself was not sustainable.
No.
But for the period of time that I did that, it continues to pay dividends many years later. But I like what you just said about how, how to feel at the end of the day. So one place I go to from there is thinking about kind of how to balance these two pieces about, how do I feel during the day or at the end of the day versus like, so in other words, being specific, if I don't feel like doing something and I just don't, and I kind of reschedule it, aka procrastinate it or whatever else, sometimes it's like if I'm like really sick or whatever, I have to do that. But I also, for me, I have to have the awareness about this like kick the can routine that can just create even more stress, because then the things I need to work on just become this overwhelming mountain of things, and that's so demotivating for me. So I try to balance those two things, where sometimes it's like I think, and certainly becoming a mom and then becoming older, having much less time and much less energy has been, they're kind of like the boss now. So when I have time to work, like this is a time that I have to work. So if I have to work on something and I'm just not feeling it, this is where I was going to earlier. One of the things that I have learned to do to help kind of like shake myself, to like wake me up, and this is like, yeah, everybody hopefully will already know their thing or will discover their thing, because it's really helpful to know it, this like self-awareness. For me, spreadsheets. So if I know it's so embarrassing, but it's like, hey, listen, it is what it is. So yeah, if I'm not able to kind of get into the flow with something, I can jump into some data, some spreadsheets or whatever, and start
Still be
like,
efficient.
start like analyzing things. And then that helps me to start getting ideas. Like it's not even the ideas, it's the curiosity piece. The curiosity needs to be like, woken. And
There's the
then like,
analytical part in you.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like, oh yeah. And then I start and then I go. So therefore, that's what I have learned, like trying to find, or another thing I love is books. So if I'm like just not getting it, I can also go look at, my little book collection and start to look through, and then I can open up any of them and just read a couple paragraphs or something, and then that gets me going. Like it makes me think, oh, I just read that article or this podcast or that person, and then I'm off.
You make
So it's
connections.
helpful, yeah, to be able to find the thing that is, it's kind of like the reset button.
Yeah.
Like if we can all find our reset button to kind of like wake us up, it can be a really helpful tool to deploy, if or when you need it. And for me, it's more regular that I need that, than it used to be, because of being tired, having family and all these other kind of distractions, so to speak. So that's why I wanted to make a point to bring that up.
Actually, that's a good point. And for me, now listening to you, I realize for me that's walking and just being outside and putting my AirPods and just putting the music super loud that I can't hear anything around me. So and going. That helps me think, and ideas are coming and connections are made. Or cleaning the house. I know it's super strange, but cleaning the house and you're focused on mundane things
Yep.
that you don't really think about. Then, and usually I listen to a podcast or music while I do that. And then, but that reminds me of that and I could do that. And sometimes I just take like 2 seconds to write down, because the older it gets, actually it's not the
It's
older you
gone.
get, but you're just forgetting, let's be honest.
Yep.
And now I just realized, discussing about meetings and going outside or how do we work, I used to walk a lot, and I used to not take like walk between meetings, different locations, or walk home instead of taking a tram or whatever, um, because that helped me think, and I just felt the need to be outside and to just, I don't know, it's a good workout, but also it's a good mental um, exercise. And now working from home, you don't do that so much. So I'm always trying to find pockets of time to walk. And when I have the dog with me, that's brilliant because like at least 3 hours a day, you're outside walking. There's no,
Mhm.
but walking the dog, especially my dog that is very energized compared to walking alone, it's
Mhm.
slightly different because I do need to pay attention to my dog, right? I
Mhm.
need to be
Mhm.
present there most of the times. So it's slightly different than just walking endlessly. You just don't really care
Mhm.
where you're like you have
Yep.
the direction, but you can take a right
Yep.
turn that maybe is not scheduled and end up getting lost. I actually love to get lost in
Mm.
new cities because that's the way you learn. And I
Yes.
even now I still tend to get lost sometimes, even in
Mm.
Amsterdam. And
Mhm.
that's for me that's the best. That's the best because then I'm like, okay, so I'm discovering something.
Mm. Mhm. So, I want to go back to one other thing we were talking about earlier about, with COVID and people starting to work from home and just this idea of being location independent. I also think, and it's somewhat related to what you're talking about, I think that I think it's an amazing experience for people to kind of, I want to say, take advantage of, or to, yeah, put to use, is if you have the opportunity to be location independent,
Mhm.
to actually take it, because it's really, at least personally speaking, I've had that. So I've done, traveled. We like drove across the U.S., for example, and I just had my MacBook, and would, as soon as we found a Wi-Fi signal, we would just pull over and work for a while. I've like worked at campsites and like on the side of a mountain and like all of these like wild locations in the jungle in Costa Rica. It's like so many places, to be able to work. But it was really helpful to me, as a part of the process of like lightening the load, because I used to think more kind of conventionally that I needed this big desk. So I had a beautiful mahogany desk, and I used to think, and I had like a mini, like what do you call, like Staples. What did you call the Staples? It's a US store, office supply store. I
Mhm.
had all the office supplies, I had all of this stuff because it felt like, oh, I have a home office. Like an office has all of these things. So I need
Yeah.
all of this junk to
Your
make my
mind was
office.
set
And
up on
so
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I thought I needed all these things, which I really didn't. And so that was part of the process for me.
Mindset.
Um, uh, yeah, mindset and just learning, what do you really need? So then, when I was able to just bring my computer with me and still do work, it really helped me to realize how little we actually need, and depending on what we do, of course, but depending on what we need. So yes, your point about sometimes you need privacy or need, to not have a lot of background noises and things like that. So I would always schedule to know ahead of time where I would be and what time those calls were going to be and what the option was. Could I rent,
Mhm.
or reserve a soundproof room, or could I go sit in a car, or there was like some hallway somewhere or something. I would always find a little alleyway or somewhere that I could go. But I think overall that experience was really, fulfilling for me personally, but also quite useful for me as, kind of evolving the way I think about business and, yeah, expenses and work styles and, et cetera, et cetera. And so I love the opportunity to help encourage other people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, on the far end of that spectrum are the digital nomads. So you may know some. I think the
I know
first one
some.
I knew of, yeah, the first one, I don't know if you know Natalie Sisson, the suitcase entrepreneur. So I think she's the first one I knew of, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. So she has the suitcase, she's the suitcase entrepreneur, her, and then there's Yuval Ackerman. I don't know if you know her, and then a friend of mine, Edwin. So I have, you probably know a bunch too. So that's a whole different level. And I
I
actually
know
know some
several.
families. Yeah, Chelsea, I know some families who are digital nomad families that literally
Mhm.
travel the globe working. So, that might be scary for some people, but it's just, I think, interesting to kind of throw that idea out on the horizon. Like it's out there. It may not be for you now. It may never be for you, but just having the awareness that there are different ways to live and to work, and to think. So
And
I
I
think,
think,
yeah.
and I think today's society actually enables us to do that. It's much easier to do it. And if we need to find something good in the pandemic, and what happened is this fact that people are more acceptant,
Yes.
more open-minded. I do want to make a point though. It's what we are talking here. It doesn't need to be for everyone. Some people actually need that office to be productive, and that's fine. So there's not a right or wrong way of doing it, and everything needs to just fit you.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think it's very important to say that, because I don't want anyone to feel like I need an office, or I need to be a nomad, or I need to work from a cafe, or honestly, there's no right answer. And what I'm learning, it's actually what I said before, depends where you are in that moment of your life. Because there are moments where I actually just want to be here in my house office and no one bothers me because I need to focus. And moments when I just can't stand my home office.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's no right answer. It's just what do you
Yeah.
feel at that point. But don't invest a lot of money in a very fancy office space. That I'm telling you for sure, it doesn't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessary. So can I just ask one more? I feel like the last kind of bucket that for me fits into this conversation about work environment, and maybe you see it differently, but for me, I think about kind of tools, because it's related to, it's like the next step of the what I mentioned earlier about, do we need a big desk? Do we need filing cabinets and like whatever, all the other office, like all this paper and stuff, like staplers, and do we need all these things, or what do we actually need? So I was curious. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I
No,
was thinking,
it's a good question
it's like,
actually.
it's like this idea. If you were like stuck on an island and you can only bring 3 tools, or
One,
like,
yeah,
what are like
one.
your, yeah, like, yeah, if you could make like your dream office, or like your ideal work environment, or whatever it is, what are the tools that are like your must-haves?
It's a good question. And I must say, for me at the beginning, they were like, I need the desk, and I need the laptop, and I
Yeah.
need that, and I did that. And I do love a big screen. So I do work with like my laptop screen, and I love that, depending on what you do. And if you have working meetings, that's brilliant, because you can have all your tools and all the documents here and still see the person. And for me, it's important when I speak with someone to actually see the person, even if it's a screen, but you get a connection.
Yes.
But in reality, what I need is my laptop and a good internet connection, and at least one of my notebooks. Like, I need my notebook.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just me. I know you love taking notes digitally. For me, it's I need to write it down. That's how my brain works, and this is what makes me happy. Um, and that's it actually.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, and of
Hmm.
course, one of my favorite pens.
A pen. Yep. And
But
a cup of coffee. We're good. Yeah. Yeah. So mine, I already mentioned the, whiteboard, spreadsheet,
oh yeah,
spreadsheets
yeah,
and
the
music,
music,
those
of
things.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
No
like, need that with,
negotiable. That's
yeah, those. But tool wise, it's just like you said, it's really internet connection. So for me, it's like the most simple, like simplified version of what the tools are. So for me, it's email, it's LinkedIn, it's calendar, and it's a CRM. So
Mm,
those for me are like it. And then like the like Airtable
yeah.
is a like in there. I would say Boomerang. So plugin for Gmail is, I love that. In my booking calendar system, I use You Can Book Me, and then my CRM is Deck. So for me, there's like a million other things that we can use, and I used to use, and I still do. But if I had to like really boil it down, it's like the simplest things. And so I also feel like it's so freeing to like to simplify things and to streamline things. And so that's been another kind of revelation for me over the years, is like this idea of like less is more, and getting rid
Yes.
of clutter. and it's like mental clutter and just like office clutter and all of these other things. So
let's be honest,
this
the more things
this
we have, the harder it is for us to produce, because our
yeah,
attention get lost in so many other things. And I do like the tools that you, of course, without WhatsApp is very important for me, because that's the easiest
sure, yeah,
way.
what's up? Yeah.
Or a Airtable, it's non-negotiable, has to be there, or MailerLite or Gmail or things like
Mm,
that. But bottom line, we don't need any of them if we have a laptop and a good internet connection. This is what you need in
mm,
order to be able to reach
mm-hmm,
your client and speak and talk with them and things like that.
mm-hmm,
I think we just need, I always say, let's go back to the basics and let's simplify. Like, how can I, what do I really need and what can I cut out? And
mm-hmm,
in order to find out that, I think you just need, like you said, what would you take if you'll be on a deserted island? So basically, you
mm-hmm,
just need to put yourself in that situation, and I don't have anything, like, can I still work? And then you'll see what you actually need.
mm-hmm. Yes, I think so. So anyway, so great chat about working environment and whatnot. So
Yeah,
hopefully folks got a new idea, or at least, yeah, a new way to think about things. But it was fun to have this chat with you anyhow.
as always.
So yeah, so I guess we'll wrap 26 and onward to 27.
Thank you all for listening, and see you
All
next.
right. Cheers.
Cheers.